Tonight we celebrate comedian, actor, and author Patton Oswalt and his hilarious, yes? And his hilarious and heartfelt new book, Silver Screen Fiend, his very own portrait of the artist as a young film buff, set largely in our own town, not very far from here, at comedy clubs and at the great New Beverly Cinema, which I passed and many of you passed, I'm sure, on the way here tonight. Let's give the New Beverly Cinema a hand. So we may not sit together in the dark at the movies as much as we used to anymore, what with our many tiny screens options, but tonight we've got Patton Oswalt to remind us of the most, quote, basic primal way movies work. A bunch of strangers together in the dark, disconnected from themselves, wired into each other as a mass mind. I love that line. One reviewer referred to Patton's memoir as, quote, buttery, because there's usually a big box of buttered popcorn in his lap while he's watching films as diverse as The Nutty Professor, or With Noel and I, one of my favorite films, or Sunset Boulevard. Not only did Patton watch a lot of films at the New Beverly Cinema, he actually watched them 3 or more nights a week. In fact, his memoir fits into the addiction genre, his addiction to darkness and uncomfortable seats, and his compulsion to see every single movie he possibly could operate it the same way an addiction does. Patton Oswalt is the author of the best-selling memoir, Zombie Spaceship Wasteland. He's starred in such films as Big Fan, A Young Adult, and Ratatouille. And he's also a voracious reader and a great supporter of libraries. You could say libraries are one of Patton's healthiest addictions. As he reminded his gazillion followers on Twitter recently, libraries are the last totally democratic, egalitarian gateway to culture and the arts left. So tonight's program, yes, is presented by the Library Foundation of Los Angeles. So your very presence here tonight supports both a wonderful writer and the Los Angeles Public Library. Patton was on the front lines of the Library Foundation's 2013 citywide Moby Dick project when he went from library branch to branch, reading aloud from Moby Dick and tweeting the results of our Summarize Moby Dick Twitter contest. It can be done, and you can see the results on our website. He's also been a great supporter of our annual Stay Home and Read a Book Ball and so many other projects of the Library Foundation, and I know it would thrill, yes, the Stay Home and Read a Book Ball is a real thing. You don't have to go out. Just dress up and stay at home and have fun and read a book. And I know it would thrill Patton if you became a member of the Library Foundation of Los Angeles and support the Los Angeles Public Library. And if you'd like more info on that, you can speak to my colleague Megan at the membership table tonight, and she'll tell you about all sorts of cool literary and social events that are coming up. And if you become a member tonight, we can gift you with a book by one of our allowed authors, and we even have some of Patton's there as well we can give away. So, in conversation with Patton tonight is writer-director Matt Oswalt. And yes, they do share the same surname because they just happen to be siblings. And don't worry, we have experts on hand monitoring tonight's conversation to make sure it doesn't degenerate into bickering, noogies, or other symptoms of sibling angst. So you guys keep it together. You may know Matt from his own Twitter hilarity or from his sketches for Nickelodeon. He's the creator of the web series Puddin' and a veteran of his brother's film obsession, having accompanied him on numerous outings to the New Beverly Cinema over the years. And a reminder tonight, after the conversation, we'll have time for some questions and answers from you, so be thinking of your questions. We will have mics on either aisle, and you do actually have to get up out of your seat, sidle along, and go to the microphone to ask a question. And afterwards, Patton will be signing books courtesy of our library store, and you can hang out and kibitz and have a drink, and Patton will sign your book. So now, please welcome two very funny guys, Patton Oswalt and Matt Oswalt.
I am kind of buttery.
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Look at this. I know how I look right now. I look buttery.
Did you come from Trader Joe's or something? Did you bring enough pirate booty for
Maybe.
everybody? I mean,
I look like the guy that loads the shirts at Trader Joe's. Like I'm the guy in the back going, boy, the Brussels sprouts are a little spongy today. You see that? You're real spongy.
And to show you how close Patton and I are, I'm using note cards to interview my own brother.
Yeah.
Um,
We use those in conversation. What are you talking about? Right?
yeah.
I always say,
see,
show up with
I'm
5
a little
topics
lost
or
here
I'm not
already.
Gonna, yeah.
Police Academy 3, your thoughts?
Oh.
Uh,
Do we have 3 hours?
I'll just go to Starbucks across the street. You guys hang here, okay?
Buttery.
There
All
we
right.
go. Yeah, back to it. Before we talk about your addiction to film,
Oh,
I
let's just
wanted
go
to
to
go.
the Q&A.
All right,
God,
let's go.
I don't want to talk to you. I swear to God, Matt.
You know,
Please try to pretend to be interested
clock
in me.
is
in
ticking.
your older brother.
normally when you do things in your career, film, TV, I have an inkling of what's going on.
Okay.
But this book, it just came out of nowhere. You just slammed it down in front of me one day and just said, read
Mm-hmm.
this. Like, where and when did you write this thing? You've been so busy the last year. Like, in hotels, where did this take place?
There was a lot of hotel writing, a lot of writing in trailers on film and TV sets.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of there were a lot of nights, when it is hard. I didn't think that, like, in my mind, writing a book, I'll just do it. But no, you kind of need to carve out days where all you do is just stare at the screen and punch this book into existence, basically, because it takes work. It takes a lot of scaffolding to make something flow, if that makes any sense. You have to do a lot of prep work to then make it seem like it's just zipping out on the page like that. So there were a couple, my wife was very polite, let me check into a hotel for a few days, and I just kind of did the Hunter S. Thompson thing in my underwear, just kind of pages and pages coming out. So.
You told me once you didn't like writing in hotels. Is that something you kind of learned later in life? Like, did you just kind of, yeah.
I learned,
It's tough writing in
I
hotels.
learned this time that I don't like writing in hotels because when you're young, when you're in your 20s and you're in a hotel by yourself, there's this, I'm a rock star on tour, But if you're over 40 in a hotel room, you're either divorced dad or failed serial killer. Not even a successful one. Like, you're the serial killer the other ones make fun of for, like, he couldn't even talk that hooker into his van. What an idiot, So, like, that's how you feel.
Nothing's worse than getting rejected on Craigslist. I'm telling you, that's the worst kind of
It's
rejection
sad.
that can possibly be.
What's weird was it also felt like a couple times when I was in hotels in my 40s, it felt like I'm doing this over 40 loser reliving my 20s fantasy camp, this is when I was in my 20s and just I had one bed and one chair, and it's just I'm trying to recreate this lost youth, but it's like I can't hide the fact that one of my ears is ringing and I'm overweight now, and it's not I'm not Sid Vicious in his hotel room, I'm Judd Hirsch in a hotel room. It's not the same thing. No offense to Judd Hirsch, he's a wonderful actor, but
I don't think he's here
me
tonight, Pat. No worry.
that no one wants to see him in his underwear in a hotel room.
Boxes or briefs of Judd Hirsch? What do you think?
I have those things. Oh, you mean what is
Judd Hirsch?
Judd?
What do you think? Yeah, I'm curious.
Oh, he wears he's old school boxers.
You think he's boxers? Okay.
He's boxers.
Okay.
Yeah. He's got really. I would imagine that he has pretty awful swamp ass because he's a great actor, so he's not focused on this stuff. This can all rot away. It's his instrument right here. The better projection you see an actor having, this is just Guadalcanal all down here. It's just horrible.
This is all in chapter 7 of the book, by the way.
Chapter
Judd
7,
Hirsch and Swamp Ass. It's all. It's an entire. Most of it's dedicated to it.
I call it the lapse of the great, and I go down all the great actors and the smells. And you'll be surprised who smells like old cauliflower. It's not Brando. All right.
So hotels, and you write in your room, or would you like go downstairs and like write in the lobby? And
what does this have to do with the book?
I'm fascinated.
This is so
because
depressing.
This thing came out of nowhere. I had no idea that this thing.
Well, in my defense, it didn't come out of nowhere. You were off shooting those horrible pudding strips with Eddie Pepitone, having him say awful things. So there was a lot about me you didn't know because you were off doing your own thing. You were rushing around. So I was writing it as best I could during the time I was home, and then you are the worst book interviewer.
I'm fascinated. I want to know about.
You could have Truman Capote in front of you with In Cold Blood. Like, so what shoes did you wear when you were typing?
Are you serious?
How do you? Were you barefoot? Were they dangling off of the chair?
All right.
Jesus.
So much for my days in questions. Okay, forget that then.
Worst.
Okay.
James Lipton just threw himself in front of a bus. Those are the worst questions. Oh my God.
All right, fine. We'll talk about your damn book. All right.
Yeah,
Fine. Is that
thank
what you want to
you.
hear? Okay, fine.
I'm trying to move units, little brother.
All right. I don't know how that. Jesus.
Okay.
So I think your addiction started much earlier. You mentioned it began when you went to the New Beverly.
Yeah.
But when we were kids,
Yeah.
there was a show on that you used to watch religiously called Creature Feature every Saturday morning. Double features.
We grew up in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
And there was a channel, WDCA, The Great Entertainer.
Yes.
That was our local state. And then there was another channel up in Baltimore, Channel 56. WCC something, which is almost like the alternate universe version of our WDCA. Local TV, they would show movies. So, but at night, that station would come in. After 11 p.m., I could get it on the TV, so I'd stay up late and watch. That's where I saw Plan 9 from Outer Space. That's where I saw The Hideous Sun Demon. But every Saturday afternoon, they would show first an Abbott Costello film and then some horror movie, any horror movie.
Like an American International or like a Godzilla.
An AIP. And then every now and then they would cheat us. And they would show something like Beyond the Sound Barrier. And so we're thinking, oh, they must go beyond that. And they meet monsters. And it's just some idiot, we got to get it up to Mach 4. And you're like, there should be a monster. Like, I remember Beyond the Sound Barrier pissed me off so much.
Really?
Because
let's talk about this now.
Because the opening credits, they're doing that Star Wars crawl on that, and so I'm like, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And then it's just some jackass with a crew cut just going, the metal's not gonna take that many G's. What? I'm 9 years old. I don't care about stress fractures in titanium. I want a monster to eat somebody.
That's all you want, yeah.
But but every Saturday we would watch those, and then we would try to, because we would do those we would kind of try to recreate them in the garage.
Sure.
With the different monsters and stuff like that. Yeah,
and then going on, and we got a little older, and we got a VCR, 1984, just a 100-pound VCR.
Oh.
And
we got the
God.
No, I'll give my dad credit for one thing. I was so pissed at him because he waited 2 years to get a VCR. Our friend Adam Miles, they got the first VCR on the block, $7,000.
Yeah.
And this thing, remember how huge it was? And it was one of those big top loading.
Yeah.
Like, I'm amazed it didn't run on Steam, and you put the thing in, and it would make this sound like, the TARDIS starting to
it's like a jet engine going when you would rewind a tape,
And then our dad waited 2 years and bought a better one for $150.
Yeah.
And we at the time, there was a store called Errol's.
Errol's was like the East Coast equivalent of like Blockbuster.
Well, they got bought out by Blockbuster. And that was back when there was like a year when the studios were like, I don't care, people can rent anything. So there was this year where you could pretty much rent any movie that was ever made. Magnetic Video would put any movie out. So we would go there and I would just grab 5 and just watch everything.
But then you found this one video store in Alexandria called the Video Vault.
The Video Vault, yeah.
Very eclectic.
So
brand.
Errol's was, again, they had kind of more mainstream stuff and some good stuff too. I rented a Racerhead from Errol's.
Wow.
So imagine there's a mini mall in Northern Virginia, and there's a yogurt store, and there's a Foot Locker, and in between the store where you can go get a Racerhead.
Yeah.
That there's something very surreal about thinking about that. But yeah, there was a place in Alexandria called Video Vault, and they
closed,
were
by the way. It's closed.
And now it's gone.
Yeah.
But at the time they were the first guys to have Russ Meyer movies.
Yeah.
And
all those
like that.
Faces of Death movies
all
that you
the
were
Faces
into.
of Death, the real footage of deaths. And then you watch it now, you're like, are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. Those are,
that's I don't know if that's a good or bad thing that we're jaded now. Like, that's not a real electrocution. Like, but, how dare they? But yeah, so then that would lead me down. Like, that's when I first discovered Werner Herzog and play, because that was one of the first video stores, also not just video store, but a store where the employees' personality came through on the racks, where they would make their own little displays of like stuff they liked.
Yeah.
And, I remember years later there was a place here called Mondo Video, and the owners were the great Mondo Video.
Yes.
There, where the owners had the weirdest taste, and their sections were not horror, science fiction. Their section were literally, there was an Eddie Deason section of just Eddie Deason movie. It's just like like amputee werewolf. I don't know what, it was the weirdest, and it was all like hand lettered, and so you really felt this, like it was almost for better or worse. It was, you could go into Mondo Video and pretend like, okay, I'm a visiting psychiatrist, and I need to make a report on these people, and I'm going to use this. He just made a model of his brain using videotapes, and I'm going to see how this guy thinks.
But those two places, Creature Feature, those were like gateways to really kind of, get you into film. And then when you come to LA, you go to the New Beverly, and you're like hooked, right, just like that.
Well, because when I came to LA, again, we grew up in the suburbs. We did not have access to great movies. You had to go down to DC a couple of times. If somebody would give me a ride, I could get into DC and go see Ron or Wings of Desire or The Gods Must Be Crazy, but I couldn't go every week. So I knew there was stuff I was missing. And for the longest time, I had this book called Midnight Movies by, is it Jay Hoberman? And it was these two Village Voice writers. Amazing book. And I just had photos in my head of like El Topo and Pink Flamingos and Black Box. And I could only imagine what these movies were because I just couldn't find them. So now I come to LA in the summer of '95, and there's a place called the New Beverly where every day for $5. Yeah. I couldn't sound older now. For only $5, now it's $8. The world's gone nuts. And we used to be $5. I would collect pop bottles all day. And it was every night, and it was again, it was like this version of the Video Vault where the calendar was this reflection of the owner, Sherman Torgan, what his tastes were. So here's a Billy Wilder double feature. Then here's two obscure like Japanese crime films, and so you could just see all of this. You would go down these paths, and there was just something about it. When I walked in the afternoon of May 20th, it was a 2:20 p.m. show of Sunset Boulevard and then Ace in the Hole.
Yeah.
That was it. I was hooked.
First time I was there, it was With Nail and I and Get Carter. And that's a great introduction at the New Beverly.
Yeah.
Great
I
rainy
remember
afternoon.
the time, this idiot, we went hiking, and he drives a Mini Cooper. So he's so excited, he has loaded the Get Carter theme.
Mini
the
Cooper,
beginning.
English car. I'm so fascinated
Mini
with this.
Cooper. I know, he's such an Anglophile now. This hair metal sports fanatic who's also an Anglophile. I don't understand. My parents got you from gypsies. So we go hiking up, and then he was like, "We got to do this, man!" And he gets in the Mini Cooper, and he starts tearing ass down the roads,
blasting the Get Carter
blasting
soundtrack.
the opening Get Carter thing, the train when they're going up, and there's some kind of children's fest. Like we almost killed. Yeah. And I was like, Matt, I understand what you're doing. Cinematically, I get it, but you don't see the people that we're about to murder. Because it was clear that you had this plan like all week, like, oh, we're gonna go on this hike and we're gonna drive in this Mini Cooper, it's gonna be awesome. And then these dumb kids and their kites had to show up and fly their kites on a beautiful sunny day. And Matt's like, I want to do some dark British noir stuff right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm gonna write a book about all the accidents you were in before you were even 17 years old.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I
was a horrible driver.
5 accidents before you were 18.
I flipped 2 cars, so I was not.
See? Yeah.
That was a terrible driver.
How do you flip a Buick Skylark? They're like top heavy. It's impossible to flip a Buick Skylark.
Yeah, but you know what? It didn't have racket. It had that power steering, and the thing would lurch, and that's how it did it. So
what?
it did alert. It was a snow day. Who cares? My book.
No. I want to know more about this. Okay, Mom and Dad still are fascinated with that. So Ace in the Hole and Sunset Boulevard, and you're off running. What's the most amount of movies you saw in one year?
The most amount in 1 year, and this is just in theaters. I saw 253 films in 1 year, but that's just in theaters. That's not counting also watching them on TV, watching them on DVD. The most that I saw in a day, but this isn't like a single. This is within a 24-hour period. I saw 11 films in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
That was when I started to. The guy, and now I'm blanking on his name. The playwright who wrote The Connection. That jazz play, The Connection, about the guys waiting to get their skag and they're jazz musicians.
Move on, Patton.
Anyway.
Move on. Here we go. Okay.
But he went through this really ugly divorce back in the 60s when he was living in Times Square, and he wrote an essay about he just spent like 4 days straight not sleeping, going to the grindhouses and watching, and all the movies began to blend together in his head. So he suddenly was like, there's a dinosaur movie, but Humphrey Bogart is shooting at the and that happened. It was this giant Hammer movie horror. It was all the Hammer horror movies.
Wow. And
so near the end of it, it all began to blend together. It was like Dracula, but then there was cave women, and and Aliens. And
To see 11 movies in a day, it's like from like 7 a.m. to like, what, midnight? That's like
it was like
literally
barfly stuff. It started at 8 a.m. and then by 8 a.m. the next day, because I think I stopped at like 4 in the morning or something. I mean, it works out because I have it in the back. There's this appendix of all the movies that I saw, like in calendar form, and you can. It's like we need. Again, you look at it and go, we need to admit this guy. If this is the report on him, he needs to come in here right now. And
And you make fun of me going to Whitesnake concerts, okay? That's so much.
One Whitesnake concert equals 8 years wasting your life
Really?
watching a movie. Yes,
8
it does.
years of watching. Okay.
Yes,
you
it
think so?
does.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
Jesus.
When they launch into Still of the Night in their third encore, you will understand. That's my night cafe, okay?
I don't know. God.
So, seeing all these movies, I understand you seeing all these classic films, wanting to put them in that book you had. I get that,
Yeah.
but you were also seeing a lot of everything, modern films too.
everything.
So how do you justify going to see like Duck Soup in the morning and then Freddy Got Fingered at night? I mean, how do you
Because
I don't get that.
You know why?
That's
Because
fascinating to me.
That's a good question. It was for two reasons. One, I was aware that I was becoming kind of a bit of a film snob, and I wanted to be very. I'm populist. I'm of the people. I also see what's coming out right now. So I might go see last year at Marienbad on a matinee. But damn right, I'm going to go see Judge Dredd in first night over at the Sherman Oaks Galleria because like I remember one day and they were back to back. I went and no, it was on the same night. It was in the same night. I went to the Galaxy and saw Turbulence with Ray Liotta.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
Lauren Holly.
Lauren Holly, yes.
And then we walked down to the
Egyptian?
Chinese and saw The Relic with Tom Sizemore and Mary Louise
Parker.
No,
The one that won the Oscar for
What's her name?
Mira Sorvino. Mira Sorvino.
Penelope Ann Miller.
was it?
Thank
Oh, it
you.
was Mira
Yes.
Sorvino. Okay.
She
Must have known.
Penelope Ann Miller, Oscar winner, jumps into a dumpster to avoid a giant mutated African monster that's on fire at the end.
And there was no classic cinema films that day. Just
I think
just
in
that?
the afternoon, I'm sure I went and saw something, like
Belle de
more
jour,
I went to Belle de jour. And now to watch Penelope Ann Miller dive into a dumpster full of brackish water to avoid this mutated beastie that's coming to chase her.
I witnessed firsthand your jadedness because I saw a couple films. I think we saw Patch Adams together.
Yes.
We saw.
that was all of us.
Yeah.
It was, Pat, there was a whole group of us for a while that we would go out of our way to see a movie that we knew
was
or
gonna be
suspected
bad.
might not be great. So, like, we all went to the opening day of Godzilla, and so stuff like that. Although I got a very harsh lesson one night. We went to see a Chow Yun-Fat movie called The Replacement Killers.
Yes.
At the Cinerama Dome. So it was me. I remember this very clearly. It was me, Bob Odenkirk, and Dana Gould are all sitting there. So they're showing previews of movies, upcoming movies, and the previews they all look horrible. But then they show the preview of that movie Wild Things that John McNaughton made with the two hot girls and Matt Dillon, and
Nev Campbell, and
exactly. So they're
name.
showing the trailer, and the three of us are just going, look at this absolute garbage. I mean, and then and the thing, like the trailer just escalates to the three-way. The two hot girls and Matt Dillon are just about to go at it in a hotel room, and then it just goes Wild Things, and we're all just kind of going, and then these two teenagers sitting in front of us look at each other and go, fuck yeah. It could have been more illustrative of how out of touch we were with what the movie-going public wanted to see. Like, it was such a perfect moment. And then, by the way, I went and saw Wild Things. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a
Wild
very
Things
good movie.
is brilliant.
Very
It is
good
one of the
movie.
best
I know.
neo-noirs ever made, with one of the coolest post-credit sequence where they unravel the whole plot. You see how they it's so genius. And Bill Murray's amazing.
He's great in it. He's great in it too.
Wild Things is fantastic. But again, they cut the trailer where it's just like boobs. You're like, oh, please. But it's actually. But I just realized they can't sell it to the public if they're like,
can't do that,
it is the most challenging, twisting. No one wants to. I remember, by the
see
way,
three
when
ways.
Young Adult was about to come out, we were all laughing that we were getting the kind of reviews that would drive people away from the movie. Like, it's like 4 stars, difficult, dark. Like,
Not what
we were
you
like,
want.
what the, oh my God, we're doomed. It was like the positive reviews that destroyed us. So,
Bring a thesaurus with you to help
Yeah,
figure out the
exactly.
dialogue along, you know?
yeah.
God.
You will leave sad. Oh,
Oh,
man.
God.
This movie pulled my guts. Oh, God.
Before we, speaking of sad, before we move on to comedy, you have to tell the story about the time we went to the New Beverly and saw Salo. Please,
No,
please,
oh God, it's
please
not-
tell them. You
okay.
don't want to tell that one?
No, I'm not
Please
going to. Do you know what
You know what
Piero
Salo is?
Pasolini
You know
Salo
what Piero
is?
Pasolini- yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Salo should not get a woo.
Yeah, it should
It
get
should
like
get
a
at best like a I know what. I
looking
know.
around to make sure nobody can see you.
It's a great movie that you never
Never wanna
watch
see
twice.
again,
No
yeah.
one has ever watched that movie twice. They've seen it once and went, very good, thank you, I'm done. I got it, thank you. But it's rarely screened. It doesn't get screened a lot. So
almost never.
the New Beverly showed Piero Pasolini's Salo with a Decameron. So we're in line, and there's a line to go in to see Salo because it's
Hard
not
to
screened.
find, never.
Yeah, it was summertime, and it was 7:15, so the sun's still out in L.A., and we're online, and some car drives by with somebody just starts yelling, "You sick fucks!" Like just yelling at all of us for going to see the movie.
awful.
Yeah, like what are you doing? And it
My
was
God.
And it wasn't like someone being funny. They were genuinely like they were driving because from a distance they were like, "Oh, they're showing Salo." These assholes, like, "You sick fuck, all of you!" Like it was this, but it actually kind of improved the movie. I'm like, wow, did the studio is that their promotional campaign? Is to have
They do that. Yeah.
people drive by and you all are horrible human beings. So
I gotta switch to comedy because a big chunk of the book's about
Yeah, let's
your
switch to comedy.
Yeah, because it's hard to transition from Salo to comedy, but I'm gonna try.
come on, man, make
I'm
the
gonna
leap,
try,
buddy.
Okay.
Do it.
Talk about the Holy City Zoo because that was a huge
Yeah.
moment.
The Holy City Zoo was this legendary room in San Francisco. A lot of people came out of that room. Robin Williams, Jonathan Winters would drop in and do it. It was just this tiny, tiny room. And up to that point, I moved to San Francisco in 1992. I started doing stand-up in 88, so I've been doing it for 4 years at that point. And at that point, I had 4 years under my belt, and I was deluded into thinking, I'm a pretty amazing comedian. I was starting to get booked as a feature, starting to get booked as a headliner a couple places. I've got a solid, I've got some A+ material. It always works.
Yeah.
But it was the worst, hackiest, most forgettable. It worked, but of course it worked. It was just this, pandering crap. And
It worked in the kind of places you were.
it worked.
Going
It worked if you were at
Performing
Befuddles
at
in West
Applebee's
Virginia.
and-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I killed at, and I'm not making this up, Sir Laughs a Lot
Wow.
in
Wow.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Sir Laughs a Lot, ladies and gentlemen.
That's my
Yeah.
Tinder name. So
There you
don't
go,
make
Sir
fun
Laugh
of
a
that, okay? So make fun of that.
underscore.
Underscore.
Okay. So now I get to the Holy City Zoo, like, hey, I'm this. There's a new gunslinger in town, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do my set. It's Tuesday night open mic. I'm introducing myself to the San Francisco scene, and I go up and I do all my A stuff. And I only got to do 7 minutes. So 7 minutes, it's all gonna be applause breaks. Boom, boom, boom. And I go up, and what I didn't know was the Holy City Zoo. The only people in that room ever were comedians. I mean, if the Holy City Zoo was packed, and I'm not exaggerating, it sat 60 people. That's all that fit into the Holy City Zoo. So it was all comedians at an open mic, and they were all these brilliant. I mean, in that room at that night were people like Margaret Cho, Greg Barrett, Greg Proops was in there. So it was all these just amazing, these people that were going to be amazing someday, and I was up there doing my horrible road stuff. Yeah. And I ate it so hard, and it wasn't booze or silence. It was just that kind of. It was the worst thing a comedian can get, which is that it's just that
Indifference kind of.
not
Like
even
a
indifference.
man,
No, it
just
was
a-
almost this genuine tolerance and pity. Like, oh, you're doing
Wow.
the okay. Oh, the tampon. That's right. Yeah. And I walked across the street, because what I realized was, up until that point, all I'd learned about comedy was, if it gets a laugh, it works, and that's it. We're not artists, we're not arguing about content here. It's just whoever gets the laugh, that is it. And now suddenly I'm in this room of people that all they cared about is, am I doing something new? Am I doing the 9th or 10th take rather than the first take on something? Am I challenging myself? So it was like I had learned the business, but I hadn't learned the craft. So that was the huge. And I walked across the street from the Holy City Zoo on Clement Street to a restaurant called Taiwan that's still there, best dim sum I've ever had. And I sat down and and this is so symbolic, but I just ate fried rice and I tore pages out of my notebook until my notebook was blank, and I just threw them in the trash. And I wrote I wrote the next day's date on the page. When I wake up tomorrow, I'm at 0 and I got to start writing new stuff.
So it broke you, but in a good way.
It broke me in a great way.
In a great way.
Because if I hadn't gone into that room and had that humiliation, I would be, I'd be on a cruise ship right now. I would be. I'd be on a cruise ship.
Oh, you lucky bastard.
I'd be going, Tampax, we're not number 1, but we're up there. Right? Come on, people.
$10 has Carlos Mencia steals that bit.
Yeah,
He's doing it by next $10, can tell you. Wow.
He'll make it better. He'll make it
much better.
Yeah. He'll punch it up.
I was in college when you were in San Francisco, so I didn't really know what was going on there. I mean, so your comedy was completely broken down, and you started building it back up. How long did that take you to start building your confidence
it took another
back?
year. It took
a
another
year
year.
of just like
but
struggling.
Luckily, all I got were like little, for my gigs that I got were like $15 a night paid spots for 7 minutes a piece. Yeah. And at the time, 1992, summer of 92, San Francisco was super cheap to live in. So I could barely survive. Like I think I made 11. No, that year I made $7,000.
Wow.
But I was able to live on it, like, because you could just live cheap.
Yeah.
And I was just constantly, and I would go out to I would also secretly go out to do these one-nighters out in Montecito and Lodi, where I would do my awful road stuff.
It worked. Yeah.
And that would keep me in, as Blaine Capatch called it, rent and ramen. And then I could come back in the city and work on the stuff that I then built my career on, basically.
Wow.
But there were nights I'm like, I need to slip away to the Cask and Cleaver in Lodi and do some of my crowd-pleasing tampon material.
Mama's got to pay
Put
her
some
rent.
ramen on the table. I remember one day I had to. I'm trying to. Again, I could not have had a bougier, smacked ass white boy upbringing. But there were moments like I remember I had to roll a $2 roll of nickels. I had those. Those coin rolls, so that I could buy. I knew a place where you could get free refills of coffee, so I went and bought a cup and then just kept refilling it while I was writing. Like that was my day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think over near the sugar area, there had crackers, so I just ate crackers and drank, and that's what I ate that day because I had no money.
Wow.
Yeah.
I once got my hand caught in a coin store machine. Swear to God, I was trying to get it out, and I put it up there, and it got stuck, and a security guard had to come over and pull it out for me. Yeah.
For real?
It happened this afternoon. But
wow.
Wow. So
That's brutal.
So now I want to switch to Van Gogh and his night cafe, because
Van Gogh.
you consider the Holy City Zoo your night cafe. Tell these people about the night cafe.
Okay, I will.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
Really good.
There's
they
a
paid for.
concept that I go into in the book, really briefly, called the Night Cafe, and it's based on that. There's a painting called the Night Cafe that I'm obsessed with. It's Van Gogh. It's my favorite painting. And basically, it is this thing where it was the first thing that he painted from memory. Up to that point, because he was a religious fanatic and he would only paint what he was looking at, that is how he balanced out what he thought was sinful. He was nuts. So, and then Gauguin said, why don't you try painting something from memory? That might unlock some blockages you have. And so he painted this cafe, the Night Cafe, where they both would hang out. It was a place like that coffee shop. You could buy a drink and then have the table all night and stay warm. So, and he painted it from memory, and it's an amazing painting. It just looks like mental illness and dread captured on
Well, you saw it for the
canvas.
first time in.
I was taking a course in college on the art of schizophrenics, and schizophrenics have certain characteristics in their art that helped to diagnose them, like visible light sources. In other words, if they paint a light, they'll paint the light coming off of it, and skewed perspective, and really, really primary garish colors. So they were showing all these pieces of art by different schizophrenic patients, and then they showed the Night Cafe.
Oh, there it is.
And it fit all. Yeah, it fit all of the characteristics of the other paintings. And if you look at it, I mean, it's just the walls look like the inside of a stomach. Like that's the color, and see all the the light coming off of the light sources. Like it's almost like stink lines, and then all the perspective is skewed. The pool table looks like it's about to lunge forward and attack somebody, and all the faces are kind of obscured. Like there is something so nightmarish about this painting for me, and the fact that he entered this room in his head to get this, and when he came out, when he was done, that's where Starry Starry Night came, and like all his great paintings came after this. But it also destroyed him. A year later, he either committed suicide or was murdered, depending on who you believe. And so is that idea, but in a much less drastic way, it's that idea of, and in your life, you've all had these. You've had a thing, maybe it's a literal room, or maybe it was an encounter or a book or something where when you entered it, when you came back out, you were then different. You were on some level, whatever course you were on got pinged to another direction. And night cafes come in any form. Night cafes can be in like a meal someone had. Thomas Keller talked about, Thomas Keller is the chef at French Laundry, and he was working as a busboy at a resort down in Florida, and he talks about a hollandaise sauce he had that he's been trying to recapture his whole life at this resort, and that was his night cafe. Yeah, but I talk about that in the book. There's all these different moments that are night cafes for me.
And the Always City Zoo is exactly that too.
That was that was the third one. That was the third night cafe.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
But that painting, and that painting is at Yale. That's where they have it. And the one time I was in New Haven, I went to Yale, and they went, we loaned it to MIT. I'm like, you. So it's almost like I've never seen this thing in person. I've never actually looked at it, but even looking at it on a computer screen or projected on one of those overhead projectors, it just wiped me out. That painting.
It's great that you saw it in college, and all these years later, you still thought about it, and was it
never,
always in the back of your mind, or was it just kind of?
I've never. I don't think a day goes by I don't think about that painting.
Really?
It's amazing.
Wow.
It's an amazing. Yeah.
It really affected you. No, I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good.
It's just a lot you don't know about me.
Yeah, that's just really fascinating, man. We're really breaking through some walls here. This is good, This is
You don't know about me trying to become a Vegas dancer. 2, 3, hit it. No.
They want a refund now, Patton.
All right.
Okay. So you're in San Francisco, and you finally come out to L.A. and you start writing for Mad TV.
Moved down. I got the job at Mad TV. That's what moved me down here in '95.
Yeah, but you're obsessed with movies at the time. You're still going to movies every night, and it's kind of ruining and affecting your work on stage and at work. And
well, just like with anything else, with any drug or any kind of addiction, at first it improved my life. At first, it improved my stand-up. It improved the way that I could talk about things, the references that I could say. Any comedian writer will tell you the first few weeks of using cocaine, it's pretty good. You're writing some good stuff. Like, hey, you see the 3 chapters I just wrote, But then after a while, it just becomes about doing the cocaine and nothing else.
Yeah.
And that's what movies became to me. It just became about going to movies and nothing else.
And it's tough when you write for a show like Mad TV, which is nothing of what you're seeing translates. Belle du Jour, all these films, you're seeing nothing translates.
That's what. It wasn't that anything. It wasn't that nothing I was doing wasn't translating. It was that I couldn't vocalize what I was trying to do. So if I was trying to make a reference to some kind of movie in a sketch, I would do it in such a ham-handed way, because again, all I was doing was I have downloaded the information from the movies, but I've done nothing to let it improve my writing or anything that I do.
Yeah.
In fact, I got that shown to me years later when I was on The King of Queens. There were a couple of the staff writers had, they were going through marriages and kids, and their lives were chaos, and their scripts were amazing because they were letting real life spill over into these scripts. They were really working, and there were a couple of writers who, they were not married, and they would just consume movies and TV and pop culture, and their scripts were they just didn't exist in the real world because they weren't having any real world experiences. Mm-hmm. So there were, and it wasn't until I was on the other side of it actually reading it, because when I was at Mad TV, I was that King of Queens writer whose stuff just wasn't translating. So we'd have people coming in, on Monday morning pitch meetings, writers go like, well, they would pitch some hilarious sketch about going to a farmer's market, and they're arguing with their wife, and you realize, oh, that came from their life, and they're like, Patton, you have a sketch? I'm like, yeah, mine's about a guy who stays awake 72 hours, and he just listens to the Velvet Underground box set like over and over again. And then they're like, where does it go from there? He starts crying, it's just. So like you have to.
I think Artie Lang can pull that one off.
Artie Lang could have done that, yeah.
Exactly.
You have to have a life that you can feed into your art. You can't have an art that is feeding off of your life, which is where I got to near the end of this. Is just like there was no life anymore. It was just we were talking backstage about there were ghouls that haunted the New Beverly. There were people, and they're still there, they're just there consuming movies. And I was on the same spectrum as them. I got, at my worst, I got towards the dark orange, but they were permanently in the ultraviolet. Like they were just gone, so.
I got to talk about what finally kicked you out of that. What finally got you off the movie on the track was that going to see Star Wars, right?
Oh, and my heroin addiction.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, that helped.
Yeah.
No, I saw, it was, again, May 20th, 1999, 4 years to the day of walking in to see Sunset Boulevard. I went to, I think you came with me.
To the Vista.
To the Vista
yes.
At midnight, and we went and saw The Phantom Menace. At one point during The Phantom Menace, during the Senate scene, when they're, because kids love amendments to trade agreements.
Better than that.
They love that.
They love it.
And they're all just going back and forth. I call for a vote on the. And my brother said, "This is like watching C-SPAN with monster masks on." We're like,
exactly right. Yeah.
We're watching
So bad.
C-SPAN, and everyone just put monster masks on for no reason. So then. But then weeks later, I was still arguing with my friends about how could it be. And there's really interesting YouTube videos by young screenwriters, young filmmakers about how to improve the prequels. There's a whole thing. I just talked about it on Seth Meyers. It's called the Machete Order. Of here's how you can watch. It's called. It's a way to watch the Star Wars prequels so that they. Here's what you do.
I'm fascinated now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 1, Phantom Menace. You don't want that's gone. That doesn't exist. That's gone. There's literally not a single piece of information in that movie that you need to watch the other ones. You just don't need it to be so.
No.
You start off watching A New Hope, Episode 4. All right, young Luke, young hero, boom.
Sure.
Then you watch Empire Strikes Back. Luke finds out, oh my God, this guy Darth Vader is my dad, and it ends on that. He just found out that the worst man in the universe is his dad. Then you watch Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Now we see Anakin as a teenager. He's at Luke's age, and we see him on the same path as Luke, but he goes the wrong way. Then you watch Episode 3, where he falls in the lava and gets all burned up and becomes Darth Vader.
Sure.
Oh my God, this is horrible. Then you watch Return of the Jedi, when Luke comes back and redeems him. Now it has this Godfather 2 structure, and it actually kind of works. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Now look, I didn't make that up. Someone else made up the Machete Order, and you do have to watch 2 of the prequels, but it makes them palatable. But what I realized was I've been arguing for weeks about this movie that I did not like, and he made a movie. And I haven't done anything. And all I'm doing, I'm just downloading, and it's affecting how much of my conversation is being usurped by a movie, by something I didn't like. Yeah. Like, then how about what's good? How about you take a risk in defending something that you think is good? How much, you're taking no risk going, well, it's like, again, it goes back to those comedians I would work with that would go on stage like, I don't care who I piss off, but New Kids on the Block sucks. It's like, of course they're gonna agree with you. Come on. So, so it was that thing of like, hey, it was a serious. I mean, It sounds like it was that one thing that totally turned me around. It was a whole series of little kicks.
But it sounds like you had seen a lot of the movies you had already wanted to see, so there was a lot of repetition at that point, probably, especially because if you go to the New Beverly a lot, after a couple of years, they just begin showing the same movies over, and you're like, okay.
Also, what helped was the next day, I went to the New Beverly, and they were showing, the day after I saw Phantom Menace, I went to the New Beverly, they were showing Sunset Boulevard again, and I went to see it again, and when I bought my ticket from Sherman, he said, I thought you'd be showing me a screenplay by now. And that was his, that was my Yoda. That was my, oh, dude, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're doing it wrong, man. And that was his way of saying, and he could remember everyone that ever came in there and how long they've been coming. And I've heard from other people that used to go there a lot, he would do that, it's time, you got to move on.
You got to move on,
Yeah. You can't come here like you've been coming here. You
was
gotta
it
go
like
do something.
cold turkey, or did you sort of wean yourself off and you just slowly stopped going to see as many? Or
I just stopped going to see as many. It was like, I don't need to see every single. You don't need to read. You need to read regularly. You don't need to read every single book before you start writing. You gotta read some stuff, and then you gotta start doing it. And you gotta suck for a while.
Yeah.
Like if I start making movies, I'll start making short films. They'll be awful. Just like when I started doing stand-up, they were. But you just gotta keep doing it till you. Yeah. Till your skill catches up with your pretensions, I guess. But yeah.
Also, your career was somewhere. You were on King of Queens by then. You were writing a lot of stuff. So I don't think.
Yeah.
You had the time
Then I got derailed by oh my God, I get to be in. I mean, it was also the Largo was happening. That was another huge factor. Was suddenly this place called the Largo was happening, and you're doing sets on a Monday night, and like Elvis Costello's in the audience, or like I came off stage one night and I went back in the kitchen and Paul Thomas Anderson was hanging out there, and he was like, "Hey, I'm making a movie. You want to be in it?" I was like, "Yeah." And so
that's how you get Magnolia. That's how I got
Magnolia.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Jeez.
So that's how crazy things got.
So things kind of winded down. But now today, do you have any sort of addictions? And I know films you're done with, but
heroin.
Aside from heroin.
No, I mean I really don't. Again, like having and this sounds so cliche, but being married and having raising a daughter, it is so much more amazing to be present as the factor in a life that's in a person that's being formed, rather than I'm just filling myself with esoterica that is for no one but this fantasy cocktail party that I'll never be at, where I'll just impress, I'll just blow everyone away, Like last year, I met Martin Scorsese, and we talked about
Who?
Martin Scorsese.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think he's a spokesman for American Express.
Okay.
But he, and we started telling each other Timothy Carey stories, and I just ended up like, oh wait a minute, I have all this movie knowledge, and all I want to do is just listen to him talk to me. I don't want to tell him any of the book because he already knows it. Yeah. He doesn't want to hear it from me, and so it's more like now I'm into more like asking people stuff and talking rather than showing off what I know. Yeah. That creates a much fuller life, at least. Wow. That's what. And again, and I don't want to sound like the end of every one-man show, but that's what my daughter taught me. That whole. And then they play Mike and the Mechanics' Living Years. And
I was thinking like Simply Red's Holding Back the Years, but that's a good choice. Mike and the Mechanics. Yeah. Oh. And you still want to direct a film? That's something that you still want to do.
Someday.
You think someday?
Yeah. You've made some short films.
Yeah.
You just went and did it. I'll just go. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. I'll just go do it.
Just go do it.
And you went and shot them.
Have to do. Go get your credit card, put some money down, and just go and just out in the desert and shoot some stuff. That's the only way you can do it. Yeah. If you could shoot any genre, what would it be? If you could have one movie, first movie, any genre, Western, noir, comedy.
I would want to do a very, very a genre that I don't think gets done enough is that it's called the Sunshine Noir, and like movies like The Late Show and The Long Goodbye and stuff like that. Like use L.A. Instead of using the darkness of New York and the East Coast, which is great, the shadows. It's the overexposure of the light out here that can be really terrifying, and a lot of evil, I think, can get away with itself if it's overlit and looks really gaudy and kind of, because everything here looks not as harmful as it actually is, because it's so illusory. So like use that as the basis. Use that as like the color palette.
They did a good job of that in Nightcrawler. Have you guys seen Nightcrawler yet? They did a really good job of that, of just making LA this sinister, like creepy, Night
Yeah.
City.
Well, that sequence in Annie Hall where he goes to L.A. It is so. I know it's very funny, but there's something very
one
sinister
shot
about L.A. The way because he used that kind of blinding summer sunshine
and the Christmas music playing.
Yeah. Oh,
And
that's
then-
what actually. Yeah, he
Yes.
uses the. I've always said this. I don't think that Coast 103.5 should play because starting December 1st they play all Christmas music, which is if you're on the East Coast, great. But if you're in LA, it's 74 degrees, and you're driving down the street and like Frosty the Snowman comes on.
Yeah.
You're like, am I about to be killed ironically in some little independent, neo-noir film or, it just feels really creepy.
He nailed that because he has this great montage of Los Angeles, the beautiful homes, the palm trees, and suddenly there's this marquee of a theater that just says Messiah of Evil on it, and that's just real quickly.
Yeah.
While the Christmas music's playing, it's so creepy. It's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
I love that. So.
God. I wanted to ask you some quick questions here, then I'll have you read some stuff. Just some real quick questions. Just your favorites.
Our dad's name is Larry.
Oh,
The
okay.
first one? Yeah.
Got one?
Larry.
Favorite Barry Levinson film?
Oh, Diner.
Diner? Okay.
It's Diner.
Yeah. I was like, Tin Man's great, but yeah, okay.
I think Diner is so
I think it's great, yeah.
perfect. My wife, when she was in college and she went to Notre Dame, she and her friend stayed up for 36 hours to drive from Notre Dame to Baltimore to find that diner one night.
Really?
They were
I
on
didn't know that.
shrooms. But
Exactly.
They,
I assume, yeah.
They watched Diner and said, we got to go find that diner now. And that has one of the best. I want to do a column somewhere called No Small Actors, and it's like people who have one, not even a line, one word in a movie where they just nail it. And that diner has that Earl, the guy who's eating the left side of the menu. Remember that? And then they go, oh my God, he's eating the whole left side. And then the guy goes, well, he's just having sandwiches. That doesn't include the chicken dinner. He goes, no, he's eating the whole thing. And then they turn and they go, Earl, does this thing you're doing, does that include the chicken dinner? He just goes, yes. He just says it in this just totally upbeat, non-judgmental. It's
Reading the
just
paper.
so
I have a better one for you. The movie Tootsie. You've all seen Tootsie, right?
Oh,
When they
yeah.
She wants to pull in to make her look better, and
No, pull away.
I want to pull out. To make
Can you
her
pull
look-
it further?
And what does he say?
How about Cleveland?
That's his only line. That's his only line in the entire film. Brilliant. Just so brilliant.
How about
How
Cleveland?
about Cleveland? Quack, quack.
Huh?
Like in The Big Lebowski, this is a family restaurant.
This
Oh,
is
that's
yeah.
right.
Yes.
It's a family restaurant.
Yeah. All that stuff. Oh. Well, in The Big Lebowski, the girl that's waiting on him in line at the beginning, she doesn't even line, but her look at him,
Yeah, when
that's
he's
a
writing the
whole
check
character.
out for,
She's just
milk.
like, this asshole is writing
Yeah.
a 69-cent check.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you all know the weird, creepy conspiracy thing about that
You know
scene
about that,
is
don't you?
because when he's writing the check, on the TV is George Bush talking about Saddam Hussein and the line in the sand, and the date on the check is September 11th, 1991,
Yeah.
exactly 10 years before 9/11.
Yeah.
If you watch the scene, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So what I'm saying, they knew, man. They knew.
That is nowhere.
Yeah.
If you read the book backwards and shine a,
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there.
Read
trust
every
me.
third letter. You're going to get
It's
a
all in
message
there.
that you're going to wish you hadn't fucking read, people.
So Diner, great choice. Okay, favorite
Yeah.
Billy Wilder film?
Double Indemnity.
Yeah.
Love Double Indemnity. That's a great L.A. noir.
It's
I
great.
love Edward G. Robinson. Again, one of the best final shots. He knew how to just do the perfect little match.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, that's genius.
They're all washed up. Great. Akira Kurosawa film. That's favorite.
Ikiru.
Akira, yeah, okay.
Ikiru. I mean, look, Yojimbo is really fun. Stray Dog's amazing. Ikiru is one of those movies. The producer, the segment producer at Conan has this obsession with Ikiru where he goes, I want to show that to the writing staff on a Friday evening and then see how many people show up Monday for work. And I would love to take that to like a hedge fund company and show it to hedge fund
Yeah.
douchebags and see how many are
Shave
just
their
like,
beards
I
and
can't,
just
yeah,
like, hey, I
I
gotta
can't do
stop
this.
this.
I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Ikiru is an amazing movie, but it is one of the few movies where I'm like, you should be careful before you watch it because if you're in a weird place in your life, it could make you make some really rash decisions. It'll make you rethink your entire life.
I saw that for the first time at New Beverly.
Oh, you
Akira,
did?
and it wasn't with the Ojimbo, it was with Night and Day, is that right?
Oh, High and Low.
I'm sorry, High and Low.
Night
High
and
and
Day,
Low, yeah.
for God's
What did I say,
sakes,
Night and
man.
Day?
Yeah.
That's the
Jesus.
Tom Cruise movie with
No,
Cameron
that's
Diaz?
not
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
technically yes, but
It's
but
Tom
at the
Cruise and
time that
Cameron
you
Diaz.
No, but that movie
I-
wasn't.
but-
Go ahead.
All right, moving on. I was right though.
Your
It
mind,
was,
I
is a
swear
Tom
to God,
Cruise
your
action
mind
movie,
is the
okay?
video rack at Mondo Video. It really is. There's a Rob Lowe hockey movie section in your mind.
That's right, man. Hey. The box set of Porky's. Your favorite Bud Boddicker?
Oh, Tall T. Tall T is a Western, and I remember
Great
everyone
film.
made the big noise about, oh my God, Brokeback Mountain. It's breaking all these barriers. It's a gay Western with these two gay characters. Go watch the Tall T. It is 71 minutes long, and it is about a closeted old cowboy played by Randolph Scott. By the way, this is not what the movie is ostensibly, but you watch it like this is what the movie's about.
Yeah.
And he meets an older gay villain played by Richard Boone, and Richard Boone has these two young, hot, like literally like dressed almost like guys from the Village People. And he meets Randolph Scott, and it's like, oh, I think I want to settle down with this guy and lose these two. And then in the end, Randolph Scott like kills him and marries this. And they even all the movie, they're like, boy, she ain't that good looking. But it was almost like, I'll just marry this beard, I guess. I can't be gay. Like it is a movie about two guys who want to be with each other and they can't be. And it's so. There's a scene where they talk while they're having coffee, and look how Richard Boone is sitting, and look what he's sitting on, and look how Randolph Scott is sitting, and you're like, were people that dumb in the 50s? Like, this is the most blatant symbolism I've ever seen in my life.
You've done that before, though. You guest programmed on TCM and tried to convince Robert Osborne that 310 to Yuma is a gay. I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
Is another one.
I don't know about that.
The whole movie, it's Glenn Ford who should have won an Oscar for that.
Sure.
And and Van Heflin has him. He's holding him until the train can take him to Yuma City Jail, and they've deputized him. So they put them up in the bridal suite of this hotel, and Glenn Ford is just sprawled on this bridal bed, and he's just seducing Van Heflin.
Yeah. Finally, I got you to say it.
I knew I would say it.
Hanging out with me, all those White Snake references that finally broke you down, you know?
Damn it.
Finally broke you down.
Glenn Ford's going, I'm your ice cream man. And he basically is trying to get him to go, like, at first he's like, let me go, but then he's like, why don't you let me go and then come with me? You could be in my gang. And his little gang guy is all dressed in like black leather, super tight, like open shirt. And again, you're watching today, there are guys in West Hollywood who would go, you need to tone that shit down. This is really, wow, really? Are you kidding? Leather on leather? Okay. So
we got the fashion blaze over here.
Yeah, but watch 310 Yuma because also it's an Elmore Leonard script, one of his first scripts. Tall T's an Elmore Leonard script,
Yes, it is.
And it's Tall T's 71 minutes long, so it's an episode of Justified, if it was on the Logo Network. It's so amazing. It's so great, and it was clear that like people were, it was because it was such a horribly suppressive atmosphere back then.
Yeah.
And anyone, in the world, especially if you're working in Hollywood, there must have been guys who came to Hollywood who were very, very heterosexual and homosexuality is wrong, that then started working the business going, I see gay guys all the time and they're just like everyone else. And they're, so I just feel like that's where a lot of those screenplays came from, where guys trying to go, I don't know how else to express this kind of apostasy that I'm going through with all my Midwestern upbringing. Now I'm seeing that all that's a lie, but I can't, if I say it now, it'll destroy my career. I see what's going on.
That's what the Celluloid Closet is all about. That film, that
that's
documentary.
a great,
it's a great documentary.
You
It's
see
all
that
about
documentary, The Celluloid Closet?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Fascinating.
And they talk about Red River.
Yes. The
Where
famous scene.
they openly were like, they were just hiding stuff. And also in Ben-Hur, when Gore Vidal is talking to Stephen Boyd about, Stephen Boyd's like, I think my take on the character is, me and Charles, his character, had a gay thing when we were young, and now he's older. I'm trying to get it going again, and he doesn't want it. And Gore Vidal said, I'll put it into the script, but don't tell Chuck.
He'll fall to pieces.
Yeah, he'll fall to pieces.
He'll fall to pieces. I'll deal with him.
Yeah, I'll deal with him.
it.
Yeah.
Okay. So moving off westerns, your favorite Werner Herzog film?
Oh, Aguirre, The Wrath of God.
Really?
Oh yeah, that one, the scene where Kinski just looks straight into the camera.
With the spider monkeys, and just like peeing.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Man, okay.
Yeah.
Your favorite prison film?
I got it. It's Latrue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The French film called Le Trou, which I've seen in theaters 3 times. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. And the first time I saw it was with the guy who wrote the movie, who was in the movie. That guy was there. It's this amazing French prison movie that they shot. It's a prison memoir by this guy. When they made the movie, they shot it in the cell that it took place in the actual prison, and they got 2 of the actual prisoners to go back and film as themselves. And it's just this really realistic French prison movie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The best films I've ever
And
seen. And
French prisons look kind of fun.
Yeah. They eat very well.
They
in
eat
French
very
prisons.
well.
They eat
They,
very well.
nice
Goose
cheese.
liver and
Nice,
cheeses
nice.
and
Look very
breads
nice.
and
Yeah.
not bad actually.
Yeah.
Better than my apartment. Is there a universally beloved film that you personally hate? Because you mentioned that Pauline Kael article about Sound of Music.
Yeah,
that
she hated
famous
Sound
one.
of Music so much.
I'm wondering, is there a film that you just personally cannot stand?
Well, there are 2 movies that I don't know about like hate, but I was just like, there's something that gave me a weird feeling. Maybe I need to revisit them. But Field of Dreams, there's something off about that movie. It feels like it was written by somebody who hates liberals, who's going, here's what you liberal assholes like. And, like that's how it feels to me. I don't know what it is. It almost feels like, it feels like it feels like if Steve Allen did a punk album and go, here's what you dumb punk kids like. And it just, there's something inauthentic about it. And then another one, I remember seeing it before I read anything about it, was The English Patient. And I'm sorry, man, I do not like that movie. The movie, and then it wins all these Academy Awards, and it has a line of dialogue in it where it goes, "You can't kill me. I died a long time ago." Oh, God! No! So there was just something about that just drove me nuts.
Wow.
I don't know what, I'm sorry, Oh, and another one, I don't hate it, and I talk about this in the book. On the same day, I went and saw The Seventh Seal and Breathless. They were double feature at the New Beverly. Okay, those are important films. I'm going to go watch them.
Yeah.
But when I went in, I was thinking, well, Breathless will be great. And I'll get through the goddamn Seventh Seal. Because it's this important film. Because The Seventh Seal is now shorthand for whenever they talk about, these obscure foreign movies. Especially like a beer commercial where the dudes are like, let's rent a movie. And the girls are like, we want this. That's a universally girly loved movie, The Seventh Seal, and then guys like, I just want the exploding trucks.
Con Air.
Yeah. And I went and saw them. Seventh Seal is amazing and really funny. It's almost like a Monty Python film. Like Death is always cracking jokes, and it has this really nice thing. And then Breathless, I just. And I know that people are like, Breathless is the most. Maybe it's because it's been stolen from so much, but it just didn't. I got to go watch it again sometimes, but man, I didn't get it.
Wow.
Yeah, it didn't grab me.
What is your favorite Bill Murray performance?
It's a toss-up between Rushmore. There's a moment in Rushmore where he literally looks like he's going to die. When he goes in to get the haircut, and they're asking like, "Are you?" And Seymour Cassell's talking to him, and his face just I've never seen. It's painful to watch.
Yeah.
His face, his emotions are just incredible.
Right.
And then also, I gotta say, there's something. I went and watched it again late one night a few months ago. I know it's not considered a great film, but in Meatballs,
he's so good in that movie.
If you want to talk about just what a movie star is, that movie it's just plotless. It just doesn't. But it just it was, let's just point the camera at this guy and it'll be great. And he's just amazing. And he's really.
He improvs all that
He
stuff.
improved
too.
it all, but he's really lovable. He's really human.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's a weird precursor to the more vulnerable. Because then he became he was still really funny, Stripes and Ghostbusters, but he kind of had his shields up, but he was very wisecracking and stuff. That is a movie where he kind of lets his guard down a couple times. He's talking to Rudy about when Rudy wants to leave the camp and he wants to help him, and that was like this. It's like a weird. It's like a portent for what he was going to end up doing in the Wes Anderson films.
Yeah.
It's really
It
great.
humanized him in this
it's really
great
it's
way.
It's great. It's
in a
great
way you never would have
performance.
thought coming in a film like Meatballs, you know?
Yeah, it's amazing.
What's your favorite creature feature film? The one that got you kind of started. Is there one film back then, American International, Godzilla's, all that stuff?
There was a movie, and I watched it again, and it's a piece of shit. But when I saw it as a little kid, it freaked me out. It's called The Screaming Skull, and it's just this skull that comes up out of the water, and people just die of fright. It's just dumb. Like, when you watch it now, you watch it and you're just like, oh, they just didn't have any money. And the poor guy was like, well, just put the skull in a string and, yeah, but how does it kill people? They'll just faint. I don't know. I got 2 days to shoot this piece of shit. You know, so.
Okay.
But at the time, because I was, you know, when you're little and you only remember these little images, it's just this, it's all imagery. And also the color is really oversaturated and crazy. So there was something about that like really, like I always thought movies should be just, you know, really hallucinatory and nuts.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah.
Remember when I was little, I think like the 10 Commandments was on TV. I didn't watch the whole thing, but there were scenes in that movie that they are like an acid trip. The way they use the colors in that movie, they just went for it. So.
How old were you when you saw
Are you signaling? Or?
Are you signaling?
Oh no, that's a camera.
that's a
Sorry.
camera guy.
Sorry about that. Never mind. I thought the writer for The Screaming Skull was in here. You're like,
you know.
don't.
Don't. How dare you?
They worked miracles with that plastic skull and that string. You shut the fuck
I
up.
had $30
Yeah.
and 24 days. I can see you do better.
Yeah.
How old were you? We were talking about when you were a kid. You saw Nosferatu. You were.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I was 5 years old.
5 years old.
I was living in Tustin Meadows. There was a Halloween day at the local library. Halloween fun for kids. We made pumpkin cookies. We cut out bats. They told us a ghost story. And then the parents said, oh, we'll show these kids this old silent movie. Silent movie, that'll be good for kids. It's an old silent movie, not like all this filth that's in the theaters now, 1974 with the Bad News Bears and everything. So they put on Nosferatu. Now, I don't know if you've seen Nosferatu recently or ever. The original Nosferatu. That movie, that is the closest movie, besides Orson Welles' The Trial, that recreates what it feels like to be having a nightmare.
Yeah.
Like the logic of how you have, like, just you're suddenly somewhere else and it's all awful and creepy and nothing is trustworthy, everything is skewed. And the kids in that theater, it wasn't even theater, it was literally like the activity room of a library. They like closed the curtains and, you know, this little square against the wall with a 8mm projector, and we were just shrieking, and it was so scary, and nobody wanted to get up and leave because we felt like I remember thinking, I don't know about the other kids, but I felt like if I got up and started moving, the things in that box would like look and see me and like try to get out at me. Yeah. So we were all like really still, but just shrieking. Ah! You know, there's that scene where like Harker is in his bed, or whatever is it, Hutter is in his bed, and he looks on the hall, and Nosferatu is at the very, very end of the hall, very far away, and they cut back to him, and he's looking in horror. When they come back, Nosferatu is right in the door, like he just, like time and space don't mean anything in that movie, and it's, for a little kid, it just melts your head. And I'm like, let your kids see Irreversible or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre before you show them Caligari or Der Golem, because they will just get, you know. I remember we were at the old silent movie theater going to see Freaks. And that's the only time. Remember that guy was in front of us with his 8-year-old kid?
Oh, yeah.
And we said, like, sir, I never do this, but you need to take your kid out of here right now.
Okay.
Don't let him see Freaks. It's just too, you know, and he, again, I'm sure there was no malice. He's like, well, it's an old, I'm trying to have him see these new movies with that explosion. This is, I don't know why he's an old Jewish man, but he, you know,
well, the Cinefamily area is a very,
yeah. But, and I was like, your kid shouldn't see this movie. Yeah. It's going to fuck him up. It fucked. I mean, I saw Freaks for the first time when I was in my 20s, and that movie is so scary.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Were you with me when we saw the Pledge? That
Yes.
Jack Nicholson film.
Okay.
Oh my lord.
We go see
Tell
The
that
Pledge,
story.
Sean Penn movie. It's amazing.
Remember that movie? Jack Nicholson, great movie.
It's the best movie Sean Penn's made, and he's made some really good movies. This movie is, but it's really terrifying, and it's really bleak. And we saw it was me, you, and Michael Penn. We went to see it.
That's right.
The night that opened. It opened at the Man's Chinese for some reason. This dark, difficult, challenging. You will leave sad. You will leave sad. That
That's what it
movie.
was.
Oh God, is that a downer?
Rethink your life.
And we're sitting there, and then across the aisle from us was this doughy like tourist family and their 2 little kids, and the movie's about a child murderer that goes uncaught.
Yeah.
So
he never gets caught.
And the kids are like begging the dad, like, I want it. Can we leave? Please, can we leave? This is really. And the dad had that look like we're on vacation here. I wanted to go to this historic theater. I don't care what's playing. We're gonna watch a goddamn movie in here. And he's just like he's gritting his jaw against his kids, just pleading with him.
Pleading.
Like, I swore I was gonna see a movie at the Grauman's Chinese, and
I don't care
it was
what
just,
it is.
and you're,
This is it. We're gonna watch.
yeah,
this
you're
damn
like
thing.
watching these 2, his son and daughter, future meth dealer, future stripper, because they're watching this 8-year-old son, 7-year-old daughter, just being put through a nightmare. It's like they're being put through the Ludvico treatment. Horrible. Are we ready?
Okay.
One more question, and we're gonna do a little open up Q&A with the audience.
In lieu of having you say your favorite.
My favorite
your
Dom
Beverly.
DeLuise movie.
I wanted you, yeah.
Probably- No.
Before we start the Q&A, I wanted you to read this.
Oh,
your
quick look,
favorite,
yes.
your back section of the book. A little experience you had at the New Beverly.
This is called, very quick, this is called
Very quick.
Typical Day at the New Beverly. All right. So we were 15 minutes into the movie. Citizen Kane is structured in so many interdependent flashbacks that even now, having seen it close to 20 times, I couldn't tell you what was happening at that point in its story. All I know is I was rapt. The theater and world around me were gone. I was watching Charles Foster Kane chew and bully his way to the top of a mountain he was about to go tumbling down the other side of. And he was going to drain so much love and patience and charity out of everyone he knew in the ascent that none of them would have the energy to run around the other side of that mountain to catch him when he plummeted. You know what's going to happen every single time you see it, but it's such a sweet ride, like body surfing a wave that you know is going to send you belly first into abrasive sand. Still, you can never resist the swell when you feel it rise. But there was noise behind me, rumbling, human but maybe not human gurgle and bark. Someone was sitting down 15 minutes into Citizen Kane, and they were talking to no one, out loud. God damn it. I turned around to shush whoever was pulling me out of Wells' cinematic gravity. It was Lawrence Tierney. Reservoir Dogs, Lawrence Tierney. Bar-brawling, knife wound surviving, battling bruiser, T-shirted human tank, Lawrence Tierney, sitting alone in the dark behind me watching Citizen Kane. I didn't shush him. For about 15 minutes, he sat there talking to the screen as if he were just out of view to the other characters, admonishing Kane, "Don't clap for that squawking bitch. She can't sing. Sit down, you chump." Oh, Jesus, what's he staring at? You gonna cry, fancy man? You really said that. You
Citizen
gonna cry,
Kane.
fancy man?
Citizen Kane.
It was the best DVD commentary I've ever heard. Suddenly, there was a younger man behind him, his handler, I found out later from Sherman, a young kid who'd landed the exhausting, unenviable job of attempting to guide a driverless tractor of a human being like Lawrence Tierney through his remaining days. "Larry, how long you been in here? We gotta go." Lawrence said, "We do? Yeah?" "Yeah, they're waiting." Lawrence stood up. He considered the screen one last time. "I ain't ever seen this cocksucker," he said. "It's not half bad." And then he was gone. This was a professional actor, a noir icon who'd end up with a more than 50-year career, and he'd never seen Citizen Kane. But the 15 out-of-context minutes he just watched, after missing the first 15, weren't half bad.
Thanks, guys. We'll take some questions from the audience, please, by all means.
Woo, can I get a little more water? Is there a bottle of water?
I haven't touched mine. I haven't touched it.
You sure?
Positive.
All right.
Oh, God.
First of all, thank you very much.
Don't ask him about
to
hotels.
both of
I've
you.
already covered that.
Won't ask you about the Red Roof Inn.
No. Nice
question-
mints. Nice mints. That's about it.
My question is really regarding the horror sci-fi genre. The hull breach. Why it always plagues the good guys and really not the bad guys. And your most I guess the film that has the most unnecessary hole breach.
Wow, that's a good. No, I know. I get no. Yeah, you're right. They're right. The good guys always do deal with the hull breach. Something we're losing atmosphere, we're losing oxygen, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the bad guys, they just get blown up. There's no like. They never get a problem that they can fix. Well, I think that. I mean, it's a very thrillingly done hull breach. Is in the movie Alien, but it's done just so they can say, well, we can't just shoot the thing. And, so they got to add that element to the, hang on, that's a very specific thing that's bothering you.
Yeah.
What's your most unnecessary hull breach in a film?
It actually is Alien because,
Oh, go ahead.
It actually is Alien because when in the shot where they're coming down onto the planet, right? They've taken the shuttle.
Yeah.
They're on the planet. It's like the foot of the shuttle hits a rock, and all of a sudden there's a hull breach. I don't understand where the actual hull breach happens in Alien.
Well, it's very hard to hear, but when Parker is on the Effect Kodo character is talking to Sigourney Weaver, he says, and you can barely hear it because it's really bad staticky, a lot of the intake ducts caked up with all the dust that was being pulled in, and that is what it then punched through the hull, and we lost 4-panel. I remember that was one of the, again, that was a writer just going, what can I say that sounds like a 4-panel and some kind of thing. So, yeah. Thank you so much. Delightful. Okay. Wow, do you have a Tumblr blog of damn hull breaches? Excuse me. What if that's the next concept of my next book? The hull breach has haunted my life. Sorry, go ahead.
I know a lot of your earlier comedy was wrapped around your cinema exposure, and one of my favorite pieces you did was the Robert Evans stuff. So,
Oh, yeah.
So have you ever had the chance to meet Robert Evans, and is he aware of your love? And I love his audio. After I heard it, I bought the audiobook, and
Yeah.
it's amazing. So
It is the best Hollywood memoir ever written, hands down. Hands down. The kid stays in the picture is amazing. And the audiobook is one of the best rock albums ever recorded. It is a spoken word rock album. It has more sex and drugs in it than all Led Zeppelin albums combined. And it's him talking. I've never had a chance to meet him. There were a couple of close calls. According to a friend of mine who had he was having a conversation with him right after I started doing that bit, and that bit kind of got legs. He said that a friend of his was talking to Robert Evans, and at one point, apropos of nothing in the conversation, he was like, "Hey, do you know who this Patton Oswalt guy is?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, I know who he is. Yeah, he's a comedian." He goes, "Oh, and do you think he knows who I am?" He goes, "Well, yeah, he does a bit about you." He goes, "Yeah, but he doesn't know me. And let me tell you, he's going to get to know me." And but then nothing, I'm like, "Oh, yay." And then nothing happened. So, like,
Wow.
yeah, it was really weird. Oh, yeah.
How do you deal with the habit now? How many movies do you see? And when you do it, are you ever still finding yourself trying to chase those original highs and also struggling with fear of missing out?
Yeah, well, now, what happened is in everyone's house now, you've got a pretty serviceable small theater in it. There was a place upstairs from Scarecrow Video in Seattle called the Sanctuary Theater. And the screen is the same size as the flat screen I have in my house. I don't have a huge flat screen, but I'm saying if I darken the room, I can recreate this little forbidden upstairs midnight feeling of watching movies, and everything is pretty much available now, But yeah, I every now and then I would try, like when they reopened the New Beverly, when Quentin reopened it, I'll go see it, and every now and then, but it's hard. My wife is writing a book right now, so it's hard for me to justify if I'm not going out to do a set or get paid, I'm just gonna go out this evening and you gotta take care of the kid while I go see some obscure Grindhouse double feature. It's not, so I'll try, sometimes if I travel to another city and I have a day, I'll go see a movie in a theater, but it's not, I have so many amazing experiences. I think what'll happen is as my daughter gets older, then maybe it's one thing that gives me hope is Clu Gulager, that great character actor, spends almost every night now at the New Beverly, like that's his retirement, is he goes and watches movies. So maybe that'll be my retirement, and I'll re-experience all these movies that I experienced as a 20-year-old as an old man, and it'll be I have this whole other world waiting for me that I don't know about yet. So, but right now, no, there's not a lot of movie watching going on. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time.
Hi, my name is Xavier with Social Sound System. I just have a quick question. My wife's on a bachelorette party in New Orleans, and I just want to go watch movies now that I've been here. So what do you think I should go and watch?
Wow.
Now, mind you, I have a Hunter S. Thompson tattoo, so.
There was a lot of information in that. There was not a question in that. And that sounded like the first act of every Harrison Ford movie I've ever heard, which is, wife's out of town, I'm just going to go watch a movie. What could possibly happen? And then Xavier wasn't looking for trouble. Hey, my wife's gone for 3. Let's go watch some movies. And good luck. I mean, go to the New Beverly. If you have time to go see movies, go to the New Beverly. They're always showing something amazing there. Or go to the Egyptian. The Egyptian always has great stuff too. Yeah. The Egyptian, which I was with the Egyptian before they were the Egyptian. They used to be this little pirate operation that would travel to different theaters before they got that space. So it's pretty great. Yes.
I was wondering with your when you previously worked at a movie theater before you moved to LA, if that was a factor in either your love of movies or how you went to the movies or anything like that.
That was a job. I needed a job. I needed money. That theater, you worked at that theater
there
before,
too.
yeah, the Town Center 3.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. I saw so many great movies there before I worked there, and then the time I worked there, they showed the worst. I worked there when they showed Jaws: The Revenge, Who's That Girl, Adventures in Babysitting, which wasn't all bad because
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
with Elizabeth Shue can be bad. No, Who Framed Roger Rabbit was great. No, they were showing everything awful. It was
Hot to Trot with the Bob Goldthwait.
No,
Yeah,
it was.
they
It
showed
was.
that. They showed when I was
What's
there.
the one James Bond movie with Dalton, like the Living Daylights or something, where
Yeah,
he
Living
takes
Daylights.
on Joe Don Baker? Or something.
Yeah.
Like what's happening? So it was horrible. So I didn't get to know, but that was not a
Yeah.
factor. That was I need money. I'm broke.
Job was
I gotta
money
take any
and
job.
meeting girls. That's all it was.
Huh?
My job was money and meeting girls. That's
Trying
pretty
to
much all it was. That's all it was.
Girls love guys covered in popcorn
I'm
dust.
gonna tell you.
Oh boy.
Wait till my book comes out, okay? Yeah, I'll switch it.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Oh. Pass the mic.
Pass the mic.
So, when I was growing up, I used to have these experiences watching movies with my parents and grandparents and kind of bonding with them.
Mm-hmm.
But my kids, they don't have the attention span to sit through any of the movies that that I used to do with my parents. I was just wondering
Which ones did you bond over, like growing up? Which ones did you
Well,
watch?
I mean, I tried getting my son to watch It's a Wonderful Life recently. It was like trying to watch he's like a spider monkey trying to crawl away,
Yeah.
It's just like, and sometimes I feel like, maybe if I'd never given my kids iPhones and, iPads and everything. And I was just wondering if you had a similar experience as a parent.
Yeah, it is. My daughter, she is growing up in a world full of screens everywhere, and those screens have blip entertainment on them. I just tried to show her E.T., and she couldn't sit still for it. Now, she's 5.5, so, might be a few more years. But I remember growing up with my dad, and, and I don't know if your dad, but that's my third book. So, no, but it was like those Sunday afternoon dad movies. Great Escape. Longest Yard.
We'd see, Bridge River Kwai.
Bridge over the River Kwai, yeah.
Yeah.
So, there was those movies, but those are, I don't know about, I don't really know what I would bond with my daughter over, because she likes My Little Pony. And,
Way too early to even go there.
So, yeah, so we'll see what happens. Again, I'm not gonna try to guide her taste. My parents didn't guide my tastes, and I found what I needed to find, so I just trust that she will too, if that makes sense. So, yeah. One more.
Well, that was actually my question was if you...
Oh, well, then we're done. All right, cool. No, sorry.
But it's similar in that if you had, let's say, I know my kid's 5'2", my daughter, and so I'm
Does she
waiting.
watch movies?
You know, I showed her E.T. at 3, and it was a big mistake because she cried for like 3 days and then begged me to write E.T. a letter and tell him to come back to Elliot. So it was really sad. It was. I cried with her because it was a real broken heart kind of time. But
That's breaking my heart. That's really sweet.
That
Oh my
is.
God.
but too young. So I was gonna say if you could show your daughter like just 5 films, if she could sit with you through 5 films between now and the age of 10, what would they be?
Oh boy. Well, Sallow. Definitely Sallow.
Russ Meyer's early stuff. When
Yeah,
he,
the
before
early
he,
where
before he
there's
got
not a lot of
bad, that
nudity.
was, you know, probably,
Well, you know, there have been a couple of movies she has liked. She liked that Winnie the Pooh movie, the one that came out a few years ago, which is basically, it's like a Charlie Kaufman film almost. It's actually really smart. That's a really good movie, so she liked that. I would like for her to watch some of the, I would love for her to watch a movie like Princess Mononoke or one of the Studio Ghibli where it's about each character has their own story rather than, there's a lot, again, I don't want to sound like some old conservative, but there's a lot of shows that I'm looking at now that are for kids that I would never let her watch, where the kids, like the 12-year-old girls are dressed up like 30-year-old divorcees and calling everyone fat and stupid. And it's like, this is awful. I wouldn't, so like maybe, you know, movies that are about, hey, life is cool and you can be curious about stuff and you don't have to be the alpha all the time, you know? So I don't know what that would be. Like, we have kind of lost something where these would be movies about, it's actually, if you're a goofball and people are making fun of you or ostracizing you or, you know, shutting you out, making you outcast, it's actually just then get away from them and just go be in your own little outcast world and make that fun. And you know, so there need to be more movies like that for kids, I think. I mean, there are some. I mean, if she's a little older, the Bad News Bears, the original one, is pretty amazing.
Princess Bride would be good to show.
Princess Bride would be, that would be really, really good. I think she'd like that. But I mean, again, I'm gonna let her tastes kind of guide her a little bit. So. I think, are we done?
Are we
oh
done?
My God. Well,
is that it?
folks,
That's it, okay. That's it, guys. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank Patton
you so
Oswalt.
much.
Enjoy the book. It's amazing. Please, enjoy it.
Thank you to my brother, Matt Oswalt.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. There's going to be a signing out there. Yeah,
this way.
Okay, this way.